You just entered the bear crawling nation on the No Agenda Street.
This is R. Mortimer, and welcome to the other side of live.
Not tonight, my pretties. Hello. It is no longer R. Mortimer.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you. The kids will play when Daddy's away. That's all I can tell you. Welcome to the other side of live. I am the beautiful co-host, Charles McFall. And tonight, our Mortimer had to be away with his responsibilities of his day job. And he's dealing with that in New Orleans, or not actually in New Orleans, but somewhere in Louisiana. So he wasn't sure if he's going to have internet. He wasn't sure about his blah, blah, blah connections. And he wants to give the best show possible. So he allowed me to pick out my favorite person in the world to talk to. However, Steve Cox was not available. So tonight, the evil laugh, the lovely laugh that complements my evil laugh is none other than LaLa Zigfreid. How are you tonight, lady?
Oh, I'm doing well.
Good. And I picked you because, of course, I am your producer for All My Nonsense. We can find you on allmynonsense.com.
That's right. That is correct.
Great plug there. Awesome.
Good. I was going to say, plug.
And, but you have a section called Ask LaLa. And I had our Mortimer listen to that a few times because we're trying to come up with ideas of who could be the guest host to sit in and talk about the topic, which we do have a good topic tonight. And after he listened to a few of those, he said, yeah, get LaLa in. It'll be awesome and great. And you were with me for my last show of Bear Crawling Live. You did the hosting duties there. And I couldn't think of anybody else, honestly, that would be better.
That's so sweet.
It's awesome. So last week...
You're going to make me cry.
I know. See, that's your job. You get to interrupt me like he does.
I'll do my best.
We're sharing the R. Mornet loafers tonight.
That's right.
One of your fans is here. Not that she's not one of mine, but Historian 1227. She just recently called into your show, didn't she?
She did. She's so lovely. I adore her.
She is. And again, I want to say mucho thanko to her for, that's my Spanglish right there, for her to, she came through last week and found a lost show of ours. She had on her computer to us, so that was awesome. Great girl. I really dig her. I think she actually used to listen to Bear Crawling Live as well, but
she did.
There's some people who aren't as proud as we are of that show, so we might not want to link her to it. But last week we did that's this week. I'm looking at this week's title, about to read it off. And last week we did Living So Loud You Burn Out. And did you identify with that topic?
So much so. Oh yeah. I live pretty loud, not just literally, of course, but figuratively as well. I'm pretty crazy busy all the time, and it hit home a lot. It was a lot of good stuff about how to just prioritize and what's important, and so that I don't get to the point where I can't do anything, because what good would that be?
Exactly.
You'd be out of a job.
Well, it's funny. There is a ADD brain, and you have to learn how to manage it. And our Mortimer says he has an ADD brain. He has to be doing so many things. I'm not going to speak on that. 'Cause there are times when I see, you have to be doing stuff, but there's also times where I see that I think it's just his chaotic nature. Is that energetic? He's doing things like me. I go stir crazy if I literally do one thing. If I'm watching TV, I'm usually working on my laptop. Right. When I work, I've got multiple things going at once. Last night, I told you off air, I have a fire pit, and my wife and I got to light a fire out in the fire pit in the backyard, and we're talking, and I'm staring at the fire, and I'm smoking a cigar. I'm always doing multiple things at once.
Right.
So, there is that, but there's also, you can't do everything, right? You need help sometimes.
I think that I'm sort of a combination of you and Mordant in the sense that I'm constantly multitasking. I'm the same way. I can't just watch TV. Like I have to be doing something with my hands or, whatever. And at the same time, I have that ADD brain in the sense that I'm like, oh my gosh, if I'm not doing something right now, I'm wasting time. And so I have to be finding something to keep busy constantly. And so I take on all this stuff, especially at work, of course. It's just, there's always something to do. And so I pile these things on. And like you said, asking for help is such a big thing. And that's something that I'm definitely working on. I've had to start, when I first started managing there, it was me. I just took everything on my shoulders because I wanted to succeed and I wanted to do a good job and I wanted to prove myself. And I ended up getting so stressed out that I just could, I almost had to quit the job. And finally I had to tell myself, like, you need to start delegating, because that, in itself is part of the job anyway. But like, it's okay to say, hey, this is too much for me. Do you think you can help me out? It's not saying that I'm failing. It's just saying that I took too much on and just realizing that. And so, definitely asking for help has been a lifesaver. Or a mental saver, we should say.
Cool. Now, are you somebody who subscribes to what I think about, I bring about, or if I think happy thoughts about Jesus, I can fly, or, I don't know. That actually comes, sorry, that sounded bad. That comes from this old music I used to listen to when I was a kid. Salty's Praise, I think it was. It was a big hymnal that turned into a cartoon character. And as a kid raised in a church, we listened to that all the time going to sleep and whatnot. And that one phrase always stuck in my head. Think happy thoughts about Jesus. And it's just, I'm sorry.
No, it does not sound familiar to me.
So, no, but what about what about positive
the
thinking?
whole idea of like, if I think it, it can do it kind of deal?
Yes.
And I know you kind of are not always into this idea, which is good because, I know you always like to be the devil's advocate. I'm a fake it till you make it person. And I really, truly believe that if you just, tell yourself, I guess it's kind of the same idea, but, it's like, okay, maybe I don't think I can actually do it at the time, but if I pretend like I can and act like it around everyone, they'll believe it. And then in time, I will believe it also.
Okay. All right. Well, this is going to lead into our topic, but and I have a point. It's just an interesting story, an interesting thing, because I'm not a fake it till you make it per se. There's so many levels to me, like an ogre and
Right.
or an onion. It's just whatever. But
You smell.
I do indeed. But I actually believe things about myself that other people don't see.
Right.
So for me, for positive thinking to work, I kind of have to see the effects of it. And my daughter, who is 6, she just turned 6, she keeps wanting to play Monopoly because it's my favorite. It is my favorite game. I actually have 2 versions. I have the regular box version, which I won for free and got that game. And then I have this deluxe collector's edition, gold inlaid, wooden, elevated.
I saw that
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Beautiful.
It's
Jealous.
gorgeous. And I won that as well through the lottery. It's weird. But I love Monopoly. I don't know why. I just have this addiction to it and play all the versions of it. And my daughter wanted to play, and she's not quite there, but she's tried once or twice. And we sat down. She's not great with games because she just gets all pouty if she starts to think she's losing. It's, all that negative. Child, what'd you expect from a child? So I'm not throwing her under the bus for that. But what I am saying is she started doing that. At some point, she had bought up a lot of property, was running low on physical money, and was starting to go, I'm losing. I said, look, 2 things. One, if you're going to pout, we're not going to play. So I'm going to kick you off the game because it's me and her and her brother playing. So she knows I'll kick her off. She wants to play. I said, 2, if you think you're going to lose, if you get all pouty, you're going to lose. But if you start going, I'm going to get some more money, somebody's going to land on my property, you start thinking these good things, you're going to do better. And, I was like, watch this. I'm going to get on free parking because we do the whole money in the middle for free parking. And I rolled the dice. Right. So I rolled the dice. I got in the free parking. And I made a big deal of it. And I started going, all I do is win. And, they thought that was funny. Well, she turned around. And sure enough, man, 2 or 3 times she had to roll a certain number to get on free parking. And she got on free parking. She wanted somebody to land on her property, and they did, so she made money. So basically, I said, just think good thoughts. I didn't say in those words, but I said, be positive. What you think about, you bring about. And just in this game, man, she almost beat me. It literally came down to who landed on whose hotel first. to who lost and
Right.
who won. She ended up landing on mine first, so she lost, and she was good with that. But she took her brother out because at some point he got low on money and he started pouting. I told him the same thing, and he never turned around. He never started thinking. He's just like, he basically gave up, and he was out. I mean, it didn't take long. It's very interesting to me to see little moments of this, and people go, "Oh, well, that's great." You know, oh, it's just you can excuse it away, and that's on you. If you want to excuse it away, that's on you. For me, it's me testing the universe. I told a story in a meeting today of another test I won't drag out here. But that brings us into our topic for tonight is greater self-worth. And we've been trying to come up with a poppy title, and it's just not happening.
You didn't like mine.
I liked it. It takes your mind in the wrong direction. I followed you right up until the end. But our Morning Mon actually came up with something, and then we forgot it because we were on our cell phones and couldn't record at the time. And it's fine. The thing is, we have a couple different flavors of show, and this particular one is going to be the not therapy, just a voice. We're going to talk about some of the stuff we've gone through, greater self-worth. We're going to start off with where we think our damage came from, how we grew up, how we saw ourselves, the things we went through, maybe our turning points. I say maybe because sometimes it's not a turning point. It's just a revelation or a getting away. But the thing that caused us to change, our catalyst, if you will. And then we're going to end, of course, with where we are now and how now we're not great, but we're working on things and we're way better than we were, and the positive of it all and how you can get where you want to go. And it's really about how you see yourself. And since I've been talking for the last, 10 minutes or so, where did you start off? How do you want to start? You want to start at the beginning, or do you want to start out how you see yourself now?
I think it's easier to start at the beginning because then I can get my thoughts together a little better. But we've definitely talked about it before. It's been sort of because you come from a pretty similar, I think, upbringing as far as like the parental situation. And a few shows back when I was at the live thing, you guys forced me to talk a little bit. And so it definitely stems from just sort of that detrimental time of my life, like when, you're between 6 and 10, I think is like they say you learn everything you need to know by kindergarten, which of course is not true. But like it's that age, I think, is such an important time for development as far as like not just personality, but just mode of thinking. And so there's both sides of the spectrum there. You have sort of, I think, where we come from, in the sense that we had people who like we looked up to and really respected their opinion, in my case, at least my mom. And then you have the other side where, which is, I think, happening a lot more in the present time with this overabundance of, oh my gosh, you're so great. Even though you failed that test, that's okay. You're still a good person. And, like giving trophies to every kid just for participating. And do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I think there's it's a thin line between one or the other, but there's that happy little medium of encouragement while still teaching the lessons of you're going to make mistakes and you're going to do this stuff, but you have to learn to move forward from that. And again, I don't know about you exactly, but when I was growing up, it was just I couldn't do anything right at all. It didn't matter how hard I tried or how much I succeeded, at school or whatever. It just wasn't enough. And so I got a lot of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It just wasn't enough for you, or it just wasn't enough for the people around you or your parents?
It wasn't enough for like my parents, and there was just always, I can always improve. I can always do better. And, and it wasn't in that sort of encouraging way, like, oh, you're doing great. Let's excel some more. It was, you didn't do what we expected you, which was like above and beyond the normal person's capabilities. So you're a failure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a lot, like you said, I got a lot of the same thing. Being homeschooled, you had a lot more exposure to my parents, and later in life,
sure.
and I'll come back to this point, but I learned later in life that the messages we learn the most are not the ones that are intentionally sent. So while, yes, I would get, this is good, this is, you're passing, whatever. I would get the not good enoughs, but I would get the not good enoughs, not so much in schoolwork until later in life. but I would get it in just the ugly jokes that they didn't think were ugly. I really can't pinpoint, but I think a big thing is, for me, a big thing was the lack of true communication of telling. I don't think my parents ever came out and verbally said, "You're a failure." And, this isn't devil's advocate. This is kind of how I honestly feel. It's a little wrench in the works here. The darker side of positive, if you will. You need to tell your kid that they're a failure sometimes when they fail, And I remember my dad getting this great idea for this race car. We were in the Pinewood Derby, and we had to design the car and carve the block of wood and put the little wheels on it and race the car, right? And it had to be within certain guidelines. And he designed this car, and he tried this idea, and we went to the race, and we thought it was gonna be so great and so wonderful, and it went down the track, and everybody else blew it out of the water. Everybody else's was way better. And we designed it off of this race car it had. So it ended up winning, like, best design. Because it looked better than anybody else's. It just couldn't race for crap.
Right.
I just remember being so brokenhearted and crying and just miserable. This was a miserable moment in my life. And I don't remember my dad saying anything to me. I remember I know he felt bad, because I remember he went out, and he probably didn't even have the money to do this, but he felt so bad he went out and bought me some toys to play with after, some big things for my G.I. Joes, and made a big deal for me. But what should have happened was, honestly, I should have been told, hey, suck it up, dude. You won, but you got an honest to God trophy. It wasn't a participation ribbon. It was you beat everybody else in the design, and that's awesome. And hey, that's how we live and we learn. We make mistakes, and it's okay to be a little sad that you didn't race to win, but you still won. I should have been told it's okay to be a failure. And I didn't get that. But then the rest of my life, I got the messages from my parents that I'm not good enough. You combine those two together, and you're
and that's what I mean when I say that there's such a fine line between, teaching your kid that they're special with and capable of great things without giving them the big head and the ego and all that stuff. And just like you said, that communication, I mean, for me, it was, I was in basketball, and, this was during my, like, chubby, like, awkward preteen phase. And I never got to play because, I just wasn't good. And so instead of my mom saying, like, it's okay, you're still a part of a team, which is important. You still get to be there and cheer your team on and be supportive and have something to give into the equation. Instead of that, it was, they don't let you play because you're too fat and you can't run. You know what I mean? So there's such a, just that little pocket. And I think that's hard. Again, and you've heard me say this a bunch of times, I don't have kids. So it's hard for me to say, like, oh, this is what should be and this what shouldn't be. But based on, like, my upbringing and what I see, like, around, you have to be good. Like you said, you have to be good about saying, okay, yes, you failed, but what can we do next time to help you move forward from that? Like you said, that you still got a trophy. Okay, so it wasn't number one fastest car, but you got something that recognizes your efforts. And I think it's hard to distinguish between what's too much and what's not enough. I mean, like the idea that, you've got these schools that are taking out red pen.
Oh.
Because it's too abrasive and it's too negative. And it's like, well, if you have an F, like it doesn't matter if it's in purple ink or red ink, like instead of going, oh, you're a big red failure, you go, hey, let's study more so we can reach your potential of your test taking.
And talking about these early messages, talking about the red pen, it's about the message you send. If all you use is the red pen for failure, you attach failure to the red ink. It's not the pen, it's the message you attach to it, both as the giver and as the receiver of the message. I use it for everything on their tests. I do homeschool my kids now, And yes, they get marked wrong with the red X, but they also get the big 100% with the red pen. You know, they get the stickers when they do well. Now, in the chat room, Rathburn and Historian and some others are talking about getting compared to their brothers and sisters. Why, your sister can do this, why can't you? So I asked, and I want to put this out to the live audience now and to the podcast audience. But first, the live number is 218-632-1724. That's 218-632-1724. You can call in live now, answer some questions, throw in your own stories. We'd love to hear it. Let's make Mordant jealous. Call in when he's not here. No, I don't want to make him jealous.
Talk to me live now.
Oh, wait, do it again. Do it again.
Talk to me live now.
Only
right now.
$2.99 a minute. All right. Do your Spanish English version. Can you
I'm not going to do that now. We'll wait until next.
All right, you can say goodbye with
it.
It
has to be natural.
Yes, I know. Okay, so but for the podcast, there's also a number. 206-666-5458 is the direct number. Or if you already have it programmed in from the bear crawling days, that'd be 404-496-6041. Please call that in. Leave a speak pipe on our Facebook or on the website, theothersideoflive.com. We'd like to hear your responses back. Because I asked the chat room, is comparing bad or good? And Historian comes back and says it depends. It can be a positive motivator. Cool. If it can be a positive motivator, that's good. But that sibling rivalry can be poisonous too. And Rathburn says at the younger ages, it was more blunt. When I got a little older, my mom started putting the caveat of you're smarter than your sister. Why aren't you getting straight A's like she does? And I see that. You yourself, LaLa, put in it can be negative used improperly. Because I find myself towing a very dangerous line with my kids. I do not recall getting a message, a verbal message of, well, your sister does this, why can't you? There was definitely nonverbal cues, especially as I grew older as an adult. But I did remember as a teenager, I watched my sister doing all her sistery stuff and the things that I would have been killed for that wouldn't have flown. The way she talked to my parents, the way she threw fits, finally came to a head with me. And I talked to my mom. I said, I don't remember what words I used, but I said, what's up? What is this? She's doing stuff that you would have beat the living crap out of me for. I never in a million years would have even gotten close to that. And yet you're letting her get away with it. What? And I actually probably said other words, but I don't want to use them here because Mordant makes me cut them out. And fair enough to him. I agreed to it. It's not really him. I actually agree. We both came to an agreement that it's better not to use them. So my mom's response was, well, we spank her so much. She has so many different issues than you had. And, we already discipline her so much. We just don't want to break her spirit. And immediately, I didn't say it out loud, but immediately I went, she needs to be broken.
Right.
She needs to be broken. So I got the message of they like her more. They give her more room than they gave me. Now I see where.
Preferential. May I ask, is she a younger sibling?
Yes.
I found that now I am a single child. I don't have any siblings or anything even remote. Like I had close cousins, but not close enough where, it was like we were siblings by any means. But I have noticed a lot with friends or family, other outside family that have siblings. There's sort of this chain of command. Of course, this isn't true in every situation, but I have noticed a trend in the fact that as the kids, you're the oldest, you got it. Are you the oldest? You don't have any older siblings?
Nope. I am the king of the roost.
So you were the first kid. You're the one that it's almost like you're the practice kid.
Yeah, that is true.
They don't have this concept of like what works and what doesn't quite yet. And so you get to the point where, you have the second, third, fourth, whatever. And as the chain goes down, usually the youngest gets it kind of the easiest because not only have they tried things throughout the kids and things work or they don't, but I think they get tired of parenting, if that makes sense. I don't mean it in like, oh, we're just going to throw our kid into the wind. But, I know with my significant other, he's a middle child. His brother is I don't know, 6 years older or so. And then his half brother is, there's like a 12 or 13-year difference. And I mean, his younger brother gets away with so much. It's almost embarrassing sometimes when I find out the stuff he's getting into and nothing's happening. And I'm like, where are these consequences? And, the boy's like, yeah, like I got, like you said, like I got my booty beat for stuff like that. And we ask his mother about it, and she's like, I'm just tired. Like, I've done this twice already. You guys grew up and seem to turn out okay. And, it's just like, if he does something really, really bad, yeah, we're going to sit down and talk about it. But at this point, when he does half the stuff you guys already did, it's like, well, what do you do? So I think that the younger you go, the more of the baby, the family, you kind of get away with a little more for whatever reason.
Well, as a parent, so I've been told I'm a parent anyway, I don't know. But having the 3 kids, I see that.
There's paper somewhere.
Right. I had to deal with having my firstborn forced me to deal with more of my emotional issues. And I made mistakes with him. He got some of the mistakes. So then we learned, okay, here's a better way to do things. And I tried to apply that going forward. I really tried to stop and take steps to let him not get the mistake all the time. Then we had a sister, and she got treated a little differently. Luckily, they were so little, he has no idea. Now we've got the 3rd kid, and I've noticed the biggest change in my wife from the first kid, where you had to put down something to protect the carpet. I mean, the carpet would be vacuumed 3 times, and then a blanket would be down, and don't lay him off the blanket. So now it's, okay, the dude's eating grass, he'll poop it out, it's fine. So there's a natural, I'm only saying that to say there's a natural progression of, right. Yes, you learn, that's a natural thing. And we're going to get into the next segment here really quickly. But I do know that the messages that were sent to me was flat out told to me all my life. I was told, you're going to grow up, you're going to get out of the house. When it wasn't a specific age, but it's basically, you're going to go to college, you're going to get out. You're going to get out, you're going to make a lot of money, you're going to support us when we're older. Not a joke. But there was always laughter. But the message that my sister always got was, you don't get to date till you're 30. You're always going to have to wear overalls. And guess what? I moved out of the house. I haven't looked back. I've made my way in this world. I'm very successful. My sister keeps jumping from job to job, and she still lives at home at the age of 32, 33, right. Somewhere in there. So that's the messages my parents instilled in us. And whereas I see there was a definite difference in raising us, and for a while I was jealous, I've been able to deal with some of my things. But moving forward, what caused us to deal with our things? What caused you, LaLa, or I know you have some stuff written down. I'll let you take it in before we jump in if you're not ready to. But the next section is, what caused us to start building worth, to start holding on to that last thread of worth that we had?
I had a pretty significant, life lesson, and it's a pretty long story, but I'll make it the short version. Basically, I had found myself in like a pit of despair and depression and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You found yourself in the pit of despair. Okay.
That was good. Yeah, it was exactly like that. That was the voice in my head.
Tell me you've seen Princess Bride.
Of course.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Come on. But it was, I was in my teens, and, I've been dealing with a lot with my family and school and other outside things. And I found myself at like the bottom of the bottom. And again, I'm not going to go into like super details. Sure. If anybody ever wants to like reach out to me and ask me about it, I'm always happy to talk about it. I just don't want to take up too much time. But I'd hit the bottom, and I found myself in the hospital, and not just like a regular like hospital room, but like a psych ward. And I remember being there, and it was like 2 a.m, and I couldn't sleep, obviously. I mean, it's not a fun place to be. You don't go there by choice most of the time. And I remember sitting there, and I was playing cards with myself, that card game they play in jail called Death, where you kind of like rotate through the cards until you have to get rid of all of them. And if you do, you die, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there, and there's all this stuff going on around me of people who have like real severe stuff, like in comparison to me, what I thought my problems were and my issues were so big and such a big deal. And I kind of looked around and put myself in perspective, like where I was and what I was surrounded by. And I was like, wow, like things could be so much worse than what I've got going on. And not only that, but like, you know, I'd found myself at a point where all of my friends, even people I'd known for many years and I thought had my back through thick and thin, I had literally pushed them away so far that they couldn't deal with me anymore. And I was probably in every sense of the word, just like alone. And it was just one of those things where like, there's nowhere farther down to go besides, you know, like the end. And I realized that was not only like selfish, but kind of idiotic to think that that was the answer for me. And from that point, once I got out of there, it was like everything, like the world had changed around me. And I was seeing things so much differently as far as like other people out there have problems too. Maybe they're not talking about it or whatever. But the first step to moving forward is to work on my stuff so that I can be a better person and friend and family member to the people around me. And it was just a climb, you know, it was just climbing back up from that hole. And it was a long, hard climb, but I did it. And, you know, I feel better than ever. And I still struggle with depression every day. It's not something that just goes away. You know, I'm not on medication. I don't go to therapy, you know, and that works for some people. But for me, it was just an everyday, I guess, affirmation. You could use that word. I know you don't really like that. But
Yeah, it's fine. It is fine. Well, I'll allow it.
That was for me, was just every day when I wake up, I'm consciously aware that I make my day, you know, and you guys talk about this all the time, you know, like the flinging the poo and the whatnots. Like there's always going to be like negativity around me, no matter what I try to do, some will leak in. But it's up to me to take those things and turn them into a positive and to put the best LaLa out there in hopes to get it back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. To a point, I can see where it could definitely go further. That's all I'm saying. But yes, it is a good point to be, especially compared to before. I don't honestly know if I ever struggled with depression. I think we were bosom buddies for a while. I just remember things in colors. And I remember a lot of my angst-ridden teenage years being just dark. Right. But here's the interesting thing I think you'll find to be true. Even on the inside, when you're just dying and you're just full of despair, but it's not so full that it's overflowing, you will have those moments where people around you go, man, she is the happiest girl I know. She is the happiest. She makes me laugh. She's always upbeat. And it's weird when they say that about me because I keep telling them I'm not a girl, but people still say that. But
it's the hair. It's your pretty hair.
It is the gorgeous, gorgeous hair that I have. Did you find that to be true for yourself, that until you hit rock bottom, that people around you maybe said you were a happy person? Were you covering that way, or were you the person that just put it all out and everybody was scared so they didn't help?
It was, I think I was a little A and a little B. You know, I definitely did the, you know, I wasn't walking around with like my hood up and not talking to anyone. You know, high school, I was a big social butterfly. I mean, I had a bajillion, we'll call them friends. And, you know, I had lots of people surrounding me. And I did kind of did what you said, where I'd sort of hid that. And I was always making jokes and being obnoxious and trying to just cover all that stuff up. But then they found out stuff about me that I wasn't putting out there on purpose. It was just things that, you know, like one person found out, and then of course word spreads like freaking wildfire. And then all of a sudden I've got people kind of approaching me about it and, you know, is this what you're doing? You know, you shouldn't do that, blah, 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 blah. And I knew that they like cared, but like you said, I think they were scared about it because they didn't know quite how to approach that specific situation. And when I kept saying, no, I don't need help. I don't want you to ask me about it. It's my issue. people took that message literally and were like, oh, well, if she doesn't want us to be there for her, then that's fine. Like, we can only try so hard.
Yeah, see, that's crap. That is so much crap. Yeah, you
It's
can't.
not in a way, though.
Okay, from my standpoint, it was. When I took a little bit of a different path, but the same dark feelings, I guess, is I was surrounded by the church. So at no point, was I ever really exposed to drugs. So I couldn't really get my hands on them, or alcohol, not until I was like 18.
Right.
Cigarettes, maybe when I was 16, but I wasn't hanging around with people who could even get me access to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was surrounded, basically I was kept in a little bit of a kid bubble. So even as I'm growing up, I'm just this giant child. And I'd rather play video games than talk to girls, or I guess my rebellion would have been to buy that violent video game my parents didn't want me to have, where I get to blow people's heads off and, oh my God,
Right.
I'm going to kill myself now, whatever. But I remember going to all these Christian conferences, right? And every last conference is the same. There's somebody up there. Hopefully there's somebody up there who will actually get through to you at some point and be real. But for the most part, it's just cheesy. Hey, we love Jesus. Crap. Okay. It shouldn't be a pep rally for a week. It should be, we're talking to you on a real level. But
Right.
every last one of the speakers always ended up, I challenge you. And when I say this, I guarantee it's going to ring bells, and everybody who's listening is, no matter who you're responding to, this is all of our responses when we were here in this damage. It was, you don't know me, and you're not even bothering to find out who I am. So what I
Right.
do is not who I am, and that's why I say it's crap when people are like, oh, we can only try so much. No, you can still take a few steps back, but you can be close. Something I was saying to my wife that I've learned, and I'm still working on, because I still shut people out, and I still, burn some bridges sometimes. But I said, we got to choose to be around people because we want to be around them and have our reasons of why we are around them. It has nothing to do with what they're doing,
Right.
Because, and you got to see what's really going on. There was a friend of mine a long time ago. I think I've told this on the show, so I'll be very, very brief about it. But basically, I would get the negative reaction from her of, oh, poor me, to the point that literally that's all she would ever do on the phone. And she played with a gun one night, talking about she's going to kill herself and talking about she's going to drive backwards in traffic. And all she wanted was, for some reason, she wanted me to be the one that, no, I'll save, And I tried that for a while, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was damaged too.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally just told her, just do it and get it over with. Get away from me. And of course she didn't. But the thing about that was I wasn't trying to help her. I was just being around and then reacting. And I think that's the people who were approaching you maybe were the same way. They were just around and they were reacting. And there's fear. Because that's really the only reason I talked to her. I was afraid she was going to do something. Or I felt good for a little while because I was needed.
Right. The sense of being needed. And, in that same kind of, I guess I was sort of where your friend was, not so openly. I mean, it was one of those things, like, if I didn't put that face on for even a split second, the people who knew me best would see and go, oh, like, there's some really crazy dark stuff going on back there, and they would timidly sort of, like, you're not thinking about this, are you? Like, you're not going to do anything, are you? And oh, no, of course not. Which, when every day, yeah, that was like a conscious thought. And I had the same situation with that. What drove me to kind of the situation that I ended up in the hospital and everything, my best friend in the world, this girl lived on the other side of the fence from my house. I mean, we were literally a stone's throw away from each other, and we spent like 24/7 together, and it got to the point where she was blowing me off, and, I could hear all of my friends over at her house, and I wasn't invited. And finally one day, I approached her about it, and I was like, what's the deal? And she was like, you know what? She's like, we talked about it. She's like, and we feel like, you aren't asking for help. We offer it. You don't seem to want it. And you're just like this all the time. And we don't know what to do anymore. And we have our own things. And I think that was a big thing for me too, or like kind of like what you said as well, that you were damaged also. So how are you going to be the most positive reinforcement or, give the right answers when you're struggling with your own things as well? And that's sort of where she was, where she's like, I don't think you're taking the time to realize that, I've got my stresses too. I've got my stuff that I'm down about too. And, instead of you taking the time to sit down with me and have us discuss these things and talk it out, like you're just acting like there's nothing in the world that's going to save you.
And we get selfish.
And she did pretty much what you said. She's like, you know what? She's like, if that's where you're at, and you've decided that you don't want to be saved, and not in a Jesus way,
sure,
but in the sense of like just saved my life. She's like, that's going to have to be your decision, and we have to walk away from that because we don't know what you want us to do to help you.
Was that helpful to you? How do you feel about that?
That was the moment, like something in my brain like snapped and it went like really, really, really negative right away. And that was sort of what pushed me over the edge when my like last friend in the world was like, we don't want to be around you because of the way you're acting and what you're doing to yourself. Like it hurts us to watch you do this to yourself. And there's nothing we can do. And that, made me like just really, that's what bottomed me out. But that was the thing that I needed to hear to then change my mode of thinking and go, well, gosh, if I've managed to literally push away the person closest to me, like I've been trying pretty hard then, I guess, to do this. And, maybe it was a subconscious thing. I don't know. But that was the thing that drove me to the bottom, but then turned it around and it turned into the positive. And from like that day, the day I got released and forward, was just me continuously trying to not only better myself, like for myself, but to be better for those around me that I love and that don't want to see me in pain or hurting or, where I was. So it was really helpful.
And I think the thing you bring out there, or that we get selfish when we get dark. When we're going, I'm not worthy. All we do, it's kind of that, it really plays into that, what we think about, we bring about. When we really focus on that, all we do is focus more and more and more. We cannot see what's going on with other people. And to give the flip side to my own argument, when I say it's crap, and yeah, I grew up in the church, so this has nothing to do with faith. I'm going to say this now. I want to be very clear. I'm not making a comment on your faith, on anybody's faith who's listening. I'm not even making a comment on your own personal church. And quite honestly, if you take offense, maybe you need to look at the people you're surrounded by. But my experience growing up in numerous churches and being surrounded by more Christians than most people ever are in their life, I could tell you most of them don't give a crap about who you are. But the flip side of that argument was I didn't know who I was, and I wasn't allowing myself to I wasn't putting myself out there either. Absolutely. To be known. I wanted what I got in my wife. It actually took a few friends in college that could stand around me. I burned hot. I will say that about myself. If you ever read comic books or watch cartoons, the flame guy, as everybody calls him, Johnny Storm, you can't touch somebody like that because they will burn you. And that was me. My best friend to this day. He survived me, and that's how I always phrase it. He tells a different story, but he survived me because he tried, because he loved. He knew when to stay 3 feet back. He knew when he knew when to avoid me, but he put up with my crap. He let me do my bullshit. All right, there's one. Let's make a marker there. Sorry, that's 45 minutes in. Cheesy, crazy.
No, you just caught yourself.
I did. They said our morning mom voice in my head going, no! And 1,000 voices were silenced.
Tisk, tisk.
But anyway, he did. He survived me. He put up with my stuff. And he's still around to this day. And I would do anything for him. I call him my brother. And then in my wife, I started finding that. And she survived me too. But the thing is, we want people to know us in those moments. And we want people to see who we are. What we really need is what I try to give to my kids. Is you can be who you are. You can scream, you can yell. Sometimes it triggers my temper, like you're talking back, and that's a bad situation. But what we are attempting to do is say, hey, what you do does not mean that's who I am. So I'm not exactly sure where I'm trying to go, but you get the point of we're selfish when we're in our dark places. I had somebody close to me really quickly, show me. I was always seeking that person to know me. And I spent time with him. He had muscular dystrophy. His name was James. He's my daughter. My daughter's named after him halfway. The other half is James Hetfield, but that's neither here nor there. But this guy, this guy, James, he just loved, no matter what I did, he loved me. And I've told this on other shows I've done, but basically I was a huge cusser. Every other word, just sometimes for shock value. But I found around him, without him ever saying a word, without him giving me negative vibes, he never said a thing about who I was. He just enjoyed me being there and took my help when he needed it. And so on. I stopped cussing around him. I started being a better person around him. And then he died. And in that point in my life, nobody had ever gotten through what I would call my armor, my thick walls. And when he died, man, I was crushed. And that made me go, why? And that was my catalyst. That was, that was my friends telling me, we can't be around you. And fortunately, or maybe not fortunately, maybe I would have moved faster down the path had I gone the way you went and got, more professional help. But I did everything on my own because I've got to do it the hard way. That's how I do things. And, I ended up moving away from my roommates because they definitely didn't understand. You talk about poking the bear. This one guy wanted to pray with me, and I about ripped his arm off and beat him with it. I was like, get away from me. And they were scared of me. They were always scared of me, which was rightfully so when I look back, because I was that guy you just couldn't predict what I did. It's very unpredictable, and it's not a good thing. And that was my catalyst. And that started me asking why. And would you agree, LaLa, that when you ask that question of anything in your life, but especially when it's about your worth, why do I feel this way about this person when I don't about anybody else? Or why do I feel this way about myself? Do you find that you have to find the answer, that you cannot ignore that?
I ask myself why all the time. But I think there's just certain people that you click with. Like you said, you just, even if you don't know that you want this person to know you so badly, there's just, maybe it's because they bring out the best in you subconsciously or whatever it is. And definitely, with this friend of mine, it's kind of like you were saying, like it was the same thing with her. It was like, for some reason, even though everybody else had said kind of the same thing in their own way, it was this chick specifically that just was the real kick to the face. I wanted her so badly to know me and to love me, and for some reason I felt as though I had failed her or something. But I did, like, I have to go back to what you're saying about the whole, like, surviving you. Like, I think that's such a good way to put it. And I was, not to backtrack too much, but I actually addressed that kind of in one of my episodes in Ask LaLa. There was a girl asking about her friend who was in sort of this position, and she didn't really know how to approach her, and whatever. And like what you said is exactly right. Like, you just need to be, or like your friend James, like, be present without pushing. Just show people that you love them by being there when you need them. Or when they need you, excuse me, just being there when they need you, and answering questions when they ask, and just loving. Like, that does so much, I think, for a person. And when you can turn around and do that for others, that also increases your own self-worth, not because you're like, oh, I'm doing something good, and that makes me a good person. Like, I'm better than other people. Not like that, but in the sense that when you project love and care, it's inevitable that the right people will give that back to you. And I think it's so important. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You have to learn. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. But you have to learn what love is. And it's sad to say, I'm very sad to say, that growing up in a church, in a preacher's home, with two parents who loved each other, and I believe they love me, that I did not learn what love was until I was 16 years old and met this man named James, who then ended up dying 2 years later. That was my first real, true lesson of what love was.
Right.
And when you're saying be there for them, let's be very, very clear here. No judgment can enter in.
Right.
No negative energy, if you will.
Right.
No ugly looks. No, well, hate the sin, love the sinner. I will pimp slap you in a heartbeat if you say that to me in a serious conversation.
Right.
Because all you do is hate in that sense. And I said it. Don't get me wrong. I used to say it all the time until I basically got emotionally slapped by a gay friend of mine who was like, I don't want to be around you because all you do is hate. It's like, no, I don't just hate what you do. It's like, no, dude, you just hate. Like, okay.
Well, it's funny because sometimes it's not always so obvious, like how the energies that you're putting out, and how they're being perceived. Because I'm such an open person and, like I put out a lot of energy. I'm not like one of those, like, I understand the idea of auras and, whatever, but the idea that, like, as people, we put out a certain electricity, right? Like,
yes.
we just carry that. And, whether you know it or not, what you're putting out there is completely affecting those around you. Even if you're not speaking, one specific occasion that I can remember is I was at work and, like you said, I was always that person. Everybody's like, oh, she's always in such a good mood and she's always laughing and she's always joking. And, like, that's what they expected from me. And so I get to work one day and I'm having just, like, the worst day. And I'm not in the mood to talk to anybody. And I'm dragging the poopy with me into the store. And the gal who was working with me, Whitney, she sees me and she's like, oh, hey. And I was like, hi, instead of my usual, like, over animated hello. And I wouldn't talk to her for the first, like, 10 minutes of the shift. I didn't say anything. I wasn't making eye contact. I was just doing my job and getting it done. I haven't seen her for a while, so I go into the back. And we call the dish room the crying room because it's kind of off to the back. And so if you ever need to cry at work, you just go do dishes and just cry over the sink. It's been utilized a few times. But so I go back there and I'm like, Whitney, what's going on? Like, where have you been? Are you okay? And I see her and she's just crying. And I was like, what's going on? Are you okay? And she's like, I don't know, dude. She's like, you just got here and, like, you just made me, I felt this, like, badness just sort of soak into me and you wouldn't look me in the eyes and I just felt like I was doing something wrong and I felt like I made you mad or something and I was like, oh my God. I was like, this has nothing to do with you. Like, I'm so sorry that I let my stuff project so much that it got you to the point where you're crying and you don't even know why. And from, like, that was another turning point for me where I was like, wow, like, I really have to just take whatever stuff I have and, deal with it so that I can keep putting all that positive stuff out there because it obviously affects people way more than I realize that it does. And again, I think that goes back to the self-worth because if I'm feeling bad about myself, no matter how hard I try, you can't always cover that up. And people feed on that, and it can change their perception of you as well. And that, and that can start a whole another series of, negativity. Yeah. So
I'm not worth it leads directly hand in hand to I can't, leads directly hand to hand to if you say so, and that I'd made so many bad decisions. I didn't even make the decisions. I had the decision made for me by somebody selling me something. And sorry, I had to fix something there. By somebody selling me something. And I go, why did I do that? Because no self-worth is your self-worth is the base of your building, your pyramid, your whatever, your ironclad legs. If you have no self-worth, you can't stand. And everybody knocks you down. When you find that, and I'm not knocking politics, I'm knocking the extremists who believe only one person who says one thing and nobody else can tell them different. And that goes for politics, that goes for religion, that goes for listening to this show. If you just say, oh, everything they say is right, no, it's not. It really isn't. That's why I have a partner in our Morning Mon, because a lot of times we are talking about the same things, but there are some definite shows of where we've just come head to head going, no, I see this differently. And we talk it out.
Exactly.
Because some of the advice, and I've grown, and I believe he's grown, and some of the stuff we've given even a year or 2 years ago, we may go back and listen and go, wow, that wasn't wrong, but that's just where we were. And now, a year, 2 years later, I can give you a better point of view. You can't just buy, but our self-worth, when you don't have it, you take it from everybody else. And that's why you go through boyfriends and girlfriends or regular friends, or as much as you hate your mom, I'm air quoting here, as much as I hate my mom, you go over there every time and let them berate you, because that's the only kind of worth you have.
This is where one of the quotes I found comes in
Okay, go
really
ahead.
well. A man who finds no satisfaction in himself will seek for it in vain elsewhere. And like when I was going through things and looking, like that was one that hit me so hard, because I was like, you know, if you can't see like the good in yourself and you're going around and you're looking for it for other people to see it in you,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like the little bit that you get will kind of get you through day to day, sure. But like you said, like it doesn't build a solid enough foundation to be looking for validation from other people. You have to validate yourself before anything, or else even if other people are saying, oh, you're so great, or you're so funny, or you're so good at this or that, if you don't believe it, those statements don't really mean anything, because they're not hitting your brain and sinking in there, because your subconscious is fighting that so much that no matter how many times they say it to you, you're not going to believe it. And so I think that like that's the first thing, is you have to find these things in yourself. And then as people agree with you or point them out, you go, yeah, you're right. I am a happy person. I am good at this or that, you know, and you can agree with that and take that and move forward and build more on top of that.
You know, that we talked about that last week. I talked about that last week, where I forget how our Mortimer phrased it, but I love what he said, because it made me talk about my little rant on safety nets and how I hate the word safety net. But what he said gave me the picture of 3 steps behind. There's always somebody 3 steps behind me, like these big marathons or the Tour de France, where they ride their bikes for weeks at the time. I think at least days, if not weeks. I mean, it's a long, long race. Or let's even go pop culture. Let's go the Amazing Race on CBS, right? They know no matter what happens, there's a medic right behind them. There's a camera crew with them. They're more than likely, they're not going to die. I mean, I say more than likely because random accidents can happen, but there's a sense of I could try more things. I can go do greater, better things I never thought I could do, because I know right behind me there's somebody there to help me out. You know, and I think that's what you're talking about there. But that's with ourselves. We have to have it inside. We can't go, my mom will always tell me I'm pretty, or, you know, my wife will always support what I do, because she didn't, because what I was doing was stupid. You know, and that's a true story for me, is I try to get my self-worth from her from a bit. And one, she's human, she's fallible. She has her own issues that I need to let her deal with, you know. So I'm trying to get her to deal with mine, and that's never pretty. And then I expected her to just love everything I loved. And she tried. She did. She tried so hard. And then she just wouldn't say anything about something I was doing, because she didn't want to be negative or hurt my feelings or crush me. And it was out of love that she did that. And, you know, it wasn't until later I was like, man, that was not right of me to do that. You know, that wasn't, you can't. You have to have that path inside of you. And the first, let me tell you, and now we're going into the leaving you with the positive of where we are and how we got here and where we're going. My first step, beyond asking why and searching and realizing, you can only seek answers inside. Yes, I read not as many books as our Morning Mon. That dude can read. He listens, granted, but still, he can absorb material like nobody's business. I'm trying to go through like 3 books he sent at me. You know, I'm trying to play catch up, and I can't. But I've read the Bible. I've studied the Quran. I read motivational books. You know, I watch Doctor Who, because come on, you can learn stuff from TV too. I'm just saying. You know, and I talk to people. And yes, you can learn principles, you can learn things, but until you can look inside of yourself for answers to the ultimate answer is why. Why am I like this? Why am I shutting people out? Or my ultimate why was, why is this guy who I really just kind of helped, who was there, who was cool to hang out with, but he wasn't my friend, his brother was my friend. Why does his death crush me? Why does his death really feel like I got ripped my insides out? Yeah, I had a girlfriend, kick my insides out, and I didn't feel nearly as bad as this. You have to look inside of to why, because that's the only place the answers are. But beyond that, I finally got to a point of just kept asking why. I kept taking abuse. kept drawing little lines going, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to take that abuse anymore. Sometimes you blow up. Sometimes you make mistakes. But it's all in the path of moving forward. You're not going to get it right the first time. So I got to the point of, here's the first line this is the first line you achieve. This is your first goal. Okay? I'm a human being. You're a human being. I deserve to be treated like a human being. And when you don't, that's when there's a problem. Either you fight or you step back, hopefully, wisely, go, hey, say that out loud. No, look, I'm willing to talk to you about anything. I understand you're upset. You know, I had this with my boss, just not in these words. It was more like, "Rrr." But anyway, I wish I'd been able to go, I understand you're upset. And there's some things that we can discuss as adults. But I'm a human being. And if you don't talk to me like I'm a human being, I'm going to talk to you like you're talking to me. And it's not going to be pretty. But what I did is I jumped to talking to him like he talked to me. And it wasn't pretty. Now I still won, but it's neither here nor there. But, you know, I could have been fired. I think he was scared to fire me. And I was right. But that's neither here nor there. But what do you think about that, LaLa? I'm a human being. I deserve to be treated like one.
Oh, absolutely. But we also have to be conscious, like you said, of the swap thing of that. And it kind of ties in with you know, kind of what you're talking about with your mom and also with my mom as well as, you know, like I'm a human being. You have to talk to me like a human and understand that I have faults. But we also have to see that in others and be accepting and loving of those things with other people as well. And I think that makes it easier for you to be a little easier on yourself. And so, you know, you have to be aware of the faults and the mistakes and that as long as, you know, myself or whoever it is working on fixing those things or bettering ourselves, then those mistakes and faults don't matter. And we all are just we're all just a bunch of people trying to be ourselves without, you know, while still being happy and keeping those around us happy. And, you know, that's the most important thing is accepting and being aware, I think.
Another baby step, if you will. Another success freaky step. I don't know. We'll come up with something. More than I'm sure is listening going, oh, I got a title right now. You know, and if you have some suggestions of how you get your self-worth back, please, 218-632-1724. If for some reason you grew up rarely, you know, that you're the statistical anomaly of you grew up healthy, you really had a fairly decent sense of self-worth. I think as children going to teenagers, going to adults, we all have misgivings about ourselves. We all have, you know, the standard growth of everybody. We're humans. We go through this. You and I obviously went through some darker stuff. I imagine Morna did too. I imagine we're going to have to do a follow-up because it's hard not to. I know he's got stuff to add to all this. And I'd love to hear it. But if you've got things to add, not you, Morton, we'll have to do a whole show with you, sir. But 218-632-1724. Because if you grew up saying, no, mostly it's just normal growing pains, but I had good self-worth. I have good self-worth. Now we'd like to hear how you kept that because the world will challenge that. As soon as you step up and go, no, I'm worthy, the world will try its damnedest to knock you down. You know, I'd like to know how you stood. But the baby step you just brought up was being accepting. But here's the thing, what helped me was I could start accepting other people's faults to a point. If I couldn't accept mine, I'd really point it out in them. That is the dark side of what Morton always says. We teach the lessons that we most want to learn. That's what he says all the time. But the dark, negative, ugly side to that really is we will rip apart most which we hate about ourselves too. But as I started going, okay, I'm going to accept that you're a human being. And it was rare at first. It really was. So I'm really trying to paint a rough picture here so that you just don't go, oh, well, that was easy for you because it wasn't.
Right.
You know, you pick one thing. Okay, I accept that. And for me, one of the big steps was, I accept you're gay. I'm not going to hate you anymore. Because I like you. I don't like how I made you feel. It makes me feel like crap. I'm sorry. I can keep my religious beliefs to myself. You know, that was a huge thing going, you're a human, I'm a human. Let's start there. Let's just start there. Once you start accepting it in other people, you're going to go, why not me?
Right.
And that's going to, because it's automatically going to build up that self-worth. Go, hey, wait a minute. I just accepted that, you know, you wanted to sit on the couch all day on Saturday and pick your nose. So why are you giving me grief that I want to do a podcast? You know, you'll get that why not me mentality also. Now's your turn.
I think and I was going to ask you too, like, the question, is it okay that we're running long? Is this all right?
Yeah, I'm driving the car. We don't need to stop to pee. Keep going.
So my question for you too is, because this is something that I struggle with, as far as, moving forward and everything is, that thin line, like, how do you distinguish between having better self-worth and feeling better about yourself and, coming across as like conceited or that people should care more about what you do and what you say? That's something that holds me back, is that I don't, like you've talked about this before. I can't remember if it was more than last week or if it was you, but talking about like, if you're not sharing something with people that you're doing that's either good or that you're working on, like, why is that? Why are you feeling guilty about that? And for me, it's always, well, they don't care, or why would they care? Or, like, I don't want to come across as, like, look how great I am. And so I have a tendency to not put as much of that out there. Like, this is what I'm doing and great. Isn't it great? I can't do that because I'm like, oh, I don't want to come across as being stuck up. So, like, how do you sort of balance that?
That's a great question. You have to, I wish I knew the quote. I wish I had a Paul Train in my pocket to look up the quote from Saturday Night Live in the 90s with the therapist who would look at the mirror and he'd say something along the lines of,
You were Molly.
Okay, what's the quote? It's like, I'm good enough, I'm something, and gosh darn it,
smart
people,
enough, and gosh darn it,
people like me.
Like me.
That's honestly, I always go back. I think it stuck in my head because it made me laugh. I thought it was so stupid and cheesy, but it stuck in me. And I think that's honestly, there's a moment of truth in there of, for me, it was podcasting. I tried the band thing and everybody hated it. And that's the thing. You got to keep trying to find who you are. You got to keep trying things just in life and start looking for the small victories. Start looking for the small victories and owning them. Because I started podcasting, and at that point in my life, I'd never really tried anything artistic that was successful. I'd always been shot down. And anybody who knows me for more than a minute knows I'm the outrageous bear. Man, I go big or go home. And so I'm always overshooting. And I started podcasting, and I'd come straight from a band. Actually, I was in a band at the time when I started podcasting. And my wife, who really, when she's pushed, she would be as nice as she could, but she's like, really, it's just not for me. It's not my style of music. I don't really care for it. She was saying something a little bit different with the podcasting. She's like, it's you and my brother. At the time, it's me and her brother, obviously. But it's you and my brother, and I hear that stupid humor, and it's just so stupid. It's such a guy thing. But it's funny, yes, but you're really good at this. And boom, I'm talking about the production of it. I mean, I got more comments about the production level of that show from my friends and from people I respected in the podcasting community. I reached out to other people like, wow, you do such a great job. You grab those and you hold those little victories because you can explain it away. Oh, well, you're just my wife. You have to say that. Oh, well, you're just another podcaster who has 2 listeners. You don't really care. You just say that. Shut up. That's what you do. You shut up and you listen to the point now. That quite honestly, when somebody says, man, that was such an amazing job, you did such an amazing thing, I try to be polite, say thank you. But if it's a professional thing like you and I, and you're like, oh, you did such a blah, 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 and it's production level, yeah, no. And it's not a cocky thing. It's not an ego thing. It's like, no, I know, because I know at this point, I've looked back at all the little victories. Like you said, you have to have that support, but the support has to be inside of you. I can look back over 5 years of little victories, tiny little victories, and go, holy crap, I know I'm a good producer. I know I can go and talk to No Agenda Radio and say, hey, I can produce stuff for you and know I belong here. Because it's all the little victories. And when you look up, Mordant says it's leveling up your life. Mordant says, he's in my earpiece right now. Hold on. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, thank you. Jesus, I thought I wasn't going to get a laugh at all. Come on now. That was funny. Anyway, and you skip over those small losses like that one. But what he always says is leveling up your life. When you're a level 2, a level 5 problem just overwhelms you. But you work on the level 2 problems and even the level 3 problems. And you slowly work up to when you're level 7 and you get that level 5 problem, you're like, I've been there. I can handle that. What about you, LaLa?
I will use my sword of truth.
Yeah. What's been your small victories? How did you get, because from what you talked about being in the hospital, and you've had some moments where I've had to say, shut up and listen. No, you're good. I wouldn't be dealing. And that's the thing too, is nobody took this as ego. I've said it to a few other podcasters. It's like, look, I mean this in the best possible way. I would not waste my time talking to you if you weren't worthy. So shut up and do what I tell you to. You're good enough. You know, I know everybody needs those. And see, I've been throwing out Mordec's name on purpose, not to butter him up, but show that he is missed here and he is needed, and his quotes matter to us, you know, and the things that he says matters. But we need that in our lives. But I gave that to you. But there was a point in your life you wouldn't even considered talking in front of people. You would never have considered being on the radio. You never would have been on a live show co-hosting, filling in for somebody you respect, with somebody you kind of tolerate. So what got you here? What were your steps? What were your little victories?
You know, it's just like you said, you know, I've been learning to accept not just compliments, which has always been a big thing for me. People say, you know, just as a little example, I'll get to work and somebody go, "Oh my gosh, you look so cute today." And instead of me going, "Oh, no, I look like crap. Sorry, thanks though." You know, instead of doing that, I'm learning, because they like roll their eyes and they're like, "Okay," you know, and then it's like, well, why would I compliment you if you're just going to take that and poop on it? And so I've been learning to just, like you said, just go, "You know what? Thank you. I really appreciate that," you know, and understand that they're saying that to me for a reason, you know. Yeah, okay, so some people out there may just be buttering me up, but I like to think I'm a pretty good judge of character. Sure. And, you know, I know who's being sincere and who isn't. And so I've been working towards just taking not only compliments, but also constructive criticism. You know, in the past, up until, you know, I'm not just saying this to butter you up, you know, up until we started engaging, I had a hard time, like, if someone said, "Well, you know, you're doing this and it's fine, but like this might be better," or "Try this," or "Just go out and do it, stop whining and just do it." You know, used to be I would take things like that and just take them so personally and blow them up so much, and just make it difficult for myself and turn it into this negative thing, when in reality it's called constructive criticism for a reason. There's obviously a big difference between someone saying, "Hey, this is okay, but this might be better," and that totally sucks, you know.
Well, you know, going back to the love and the positive versus negative, it really depends on the why, doesn't it? What changed my life on the outside, what changed my life, one of the biggest influences that formed me was getting with a paramedic who said, "No, dude, I think you're cool. I think you've got a lot of potential. I think you need training, but I'm not going to put up with your crap." And he kept reminding me of that, and he treated me like, not like crap, but he pushed me. He was a tough love guy, but he always said, "You are worthy," over and over again, and not so many words. As opposed to like my mom, who called me "You have to be a gentle giant," and "Oh my God, you're going to kill people," and you know, just the negative of, "Oh, I just got to make sure you don't destroy the world." I was here to rule the world. That's what I was born for. Dude, little shiny side moment. My son was having a problem with math, and he gets locked up in his head. For some reason, I think it's probably my fault, because he was around when I had to learn to deal with some emotional issues. So I probably put some stuff on him that I don't want him to have, but I'm working to get it out of him now. But he gets locked up in his head. He gets thinking too fast, and he gets this, and it kind of is, I'm going to fail. What does he do? He fails. The other day I told him, I said, "Stand up. What's your name?" He said, "Oh, good." I'm like, "No, what's your real name?" And he gave me his whole name. It's like, "That's right, you're McFall." Nobody gets us down. Nobody tells us what to do. The world is ours. We rule it. That's us. And he kind of smiled, but he understood I was serious. It's like, dude, but that's self-worth. BC Rocco puts in, "Rule the world. Ego much?" And she's just poking about it. But it is. But that's the thing, too. You get from small victories to there is an ego, because how are you going to be great in this world? Everybody can be mediocre. Everybody can be mediocre. Most can be losers, because they choose never to have self-worth. They choose to let the world just run them. You know, they choose to live with their hand out. You owe me something. And I'm not referring to Medicare, Medicaid, welfare. Don't read politics into it. I'm talking about the personal choices of, well, you owe this to me. And I choose to say, nobody owes me anything, but I want to take it. And what happens? I turn around behind me and there's people following.
Right. You owe it to yourself. That's the big thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Owing it to yourself. Do you really want to, look back 10 years and say, well, what could I have been achieving and doing had I not been sitting around like feeling sorry for myself or, expecting to fail? And that's a big motivation for me as well. Is I don't, as far as like this podcasting endeavor that that I'm doing and coming on shows and stuff. Normally I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do it. Instead of going back and going, gosh, I wish I had done that. I wish I'd had the balls then that I have now. Like, why not have the balls now? And just let my balls get bigger and bigger and have huge balls. Maybe someday bigger than yours even. But, I think that's such a good thing is to looking forward is so important. Not wanting to regret anything is a big drive for me. Learning to accept, like I said, compliments and constructive criticism and the little triumphs are the things that, when I think that nobody's listening to my show and I get this email from someone, like, for example, from LaLa, who's so wonderful. And she's like, I like it. I'm really enjoying it. Keep doing it. When I'm getting stuff from my friends who, I'm like, oh, they're not going to listen. They see me every day. Why would they want to listen to me on their free time? And they come to me and they're like, dude, I listened and I love hearing your voice when I'm not around you. I find it comforting and, whatever. And I love seeing this side of you and all these little things where I'm like, oh, like the things that I do and I say not only matter to me, but seemingly matter to other people. And it's those little things that keep me moving forward and saying like, I want to be successful for me big time. But while doing that, I'm also putting positive things out there. And that feels good also on top of it,
And to tie in with something in the chat room and what you asked about how do you get there? How do you get there? Mari in the chat room says she started something on Facebook where she puts out something that she likes about herself every day and she makes it public. And my first thought, because of how the world works, and going back to what I said before, is as soon as you step up and say, I'm worthy, the world will try to knock you down. I believe, Mari, that's awesome. I think that's a great start. But are you prepared for the backlash? Because it's not about what we say. I could say all day long, I used to say all day long, I'm the best, I can do this, I can do that. And that's kind of why I'm not a huge fan of fake it till you make it. I'm a fan of believe before it's real.
Right.
I believe, I know that we're being nominated. I know I'm going to be in Vegas in January at the Blog World, at New Media Expo. I know this. It just hasn't happened yet. I'm not faking it because, reason why I say that is because I faked so much in my life. I'm not dogging on fake it till you make it. Believe what you believe, get where you got to go, however you got to get there. But when I faked stuff, I knew, I could not know that it was just not real. That's the difference between me now and me then was, I started believing I'm a human being. I deserve to be treated like one. I started believing, well, if I'm a human being and I'm accepting of others' faults, I can be accepting of mine. And then I started believing blah, 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 up until, no, I can matter in somebody's life. And I can take a compliment and say, you're welcome. I can see, man, one of the greatest things, a little side note, one of the greatest moments of my life, nobody really knows about except my wife and my partner. Because we didn't do it for the glory. But I was on the ambulance. And me and my partner went on a call for a baby sick in a trailer park that is known to be Slumville. And you only end up there because you have to. And they were doing the best they could for their kid. And they didn't have air conditioning. And it was the middle of summer and it was hot at night. But they were, all the signs, all the environmental signs in the trailer, the concern for their kid, everything said, we are doing the best we can. We just don't have much. And I went, you know what? I'm not doing very well myself, but I'm doing better than they are. And I'm going to help them out. And I went and got them an air conditioner, a window unit, and brought it to them. And me and my partner brought it to them together. And, of course, they were like, oh, my God, this is so awesome. I was like, look, we just see. You teach the lessons you most want to learn. I wanted somebody to see that I was worthy of help, that I was worthy of anything. Because I knew I was worthy, but I couldn't feel like anybody saw it. So I guess I was teaching that. I recognized you're doing the best you can. Keep your head up. Here, somebody else is going to help you. And it changed their life. You know, and I don't tell that story to get, thank you. You know, I don't tell it to get that's awesome.
Well, I'm not interpreting it as,
right.
you know, like, oh, you're telling it to,
know.
you know, whatever, inflate yourself. Like, that's just a real situation that you, like, without even really thinking about it, we're like, this is what I'm able to do to help others. And I think that's amazing. And I think that's also, like, a huge thing, you know, is I like to practice on others. Like, I like to practice boosting people up and giving compliments and making other people feel good about themselves, because it gives me the practice to make me feel better about myself.
All right. And I want to address, going back to the point so we can wrap up here. Oop, beep, beep, beep. Sorry. I want to address this, talking about the backlash. Rock Girl says the backlash would come from people that are attacking you because they see something in you they wish they had. This is true, and you need to understand this going in. Haters are going to hate because they wish they had what you had. But when you fake it, when you're making an empty phrase, I'm not saying Mari is. I'm also the cautious bear sometimes. I always look for the worst case scenario so I can be prepared for it. I want to say, believe what you're writing. So when somebody goes, blah, 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 you know, it bounces off because I believe it. Because if you don't believe what you're writing and somebody comes and tries to take you down, it will make you fall farther than you ever have before because you're on a fake pedestal. And I'm only warning. I'm saying believe, don't just fake it.
I agree.
So there was one other point with that I wanted to make. Because we're talking about taking the victories, watching for the small losses. Don't blow up the small losses into more than what they are. You know, just because a joke bombs in a room, or, you know, I tell jokes all the time. Not all of them are funny. Just because you know, you got to find out the why. Knowing the why will get you everywhere you want to be. Here's where we're going to end it. Here's where we're going to talk about where we are now, exactly where we are now. I can get on the show and I can talk about all this stuff in my life without any fear. I was known to get on the bear crawling live show and talk about the mistakes I was making, the pain I was going through with my wife and my family or my extended family. You know, I was known to be brutally honest. I started that because I couldn't hold it. Excuse me. I couldn't hold it back anymore. So I'm known for that stuff, but some of the stuff you don't get now because it is not, unless it's relevant to what we're talking about, is I still get neurotic about things. I still feel like I can be a failure as a dad. I still make mistakes with my kids. I still let my wife down on a regular basis. A lot less than it used to be. A lot less. But I still make mistakes. I still put my failures onto her sometimes. And she fails me too. But what I can do when you hit these... I keep choking up now. I'm not crying, I swear. I'm allergic to the radio.
It's okay. All little girls cry sometimes.
Oh. But, you know, the point is I still work through stuff. I still have a lot of stuff in me. The reason we did the birthday show was because that is such a damage from so far back that I don't even know why it's there. I'm so numb to it now. That's just how I react. These are the self-worth issues I still have. I still believe I belong on a stage in front of people. It still hurts when we get turned down. You know, it hurt last year when I didn't win the podcast award. Mordit was a better man than I. He's like, no, you know, we're going to say congratulations to those who won. I was kind of like, you know, because it hurts because I still get some self-worth from the outside world. We always will. What about you, LaLa? Where are you? What can you work on? And what are you doing about it?
I am just, you know, like I said, I'm learning to take things for what they are instead of blowing them up. And kind of what you said a little bit ago, like, you know, you're always kind of expecting this negative, being prepared for it. I'm a total, like, waiting for the axe to fall kind of person. I look out in the future and I'm like, this is how it's going to happen. And I'm learning to not do that, to just take the little things that are like the little cracks in the street that I'm tripping on or whatever and go, well, it was just a little trip. It's okay. I can clean myself off, dust myself off, and move forward and not pretend like it didn't happen, but just realize that that one little thing is not everything. And not blowing things out of proportion. And just looking at them for what they are in itself without any added issues that I put on there for no reason. you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm learning to also like accept responsibility for things as well. You know, when I do mess up, instead of making an excuse or, you know, I'm not one to blame other people, but, you know, there are situations where maybe even in my mind I go, well, maybe if this person had done it differently, I wouldn't have messed up.
Right.
You know, and so I'm learning to take responsibility for things and, you know, not avoiding stuff, but like working through them and just moving forward. This is such a big thing for me lately, and it's really been, and I have to attribute this a lot to you and to Mordant, especially, and like listening every week or as many weeks as I can, and just learning that moving forward is like the main thing, because only in doing that am I going to learn and grow and succeed at something. There's no point in hanging around and waiting for stuff to happen. I have to move and do it. And that's really changed my life a lot. And it's gotten me to the point where I can do things like this with you, like live radio and putting this stuff out every week. You remember, you know, the other show, it was, well, I just want to go every other week because I don't know if I can handle it. Well, guess what? I did it, and I'm handling it. And it's seemingly going well. And I'm enjoying it. And, you know, so why not take that and move forward from that and make it bigger and better and feel bigger, better, more. That's perfect.
That was great.
That was good timing.
Great. I absolutely everything there. Couldn't have said it better, even though I tried. So that's where we are. We're always working. Mari says everyone's a work in progress. Rocco responding back, it hurts because you're human. Keep these things in mind. Love our audience, man. I love the people who listen because you guys get it. And if you don't quite get it, you're going to. Trust me, we all are a work in progress. We're always moving forward. So LaLa, tell them where you can be found.
You can find me, the show, All My Nonsense, is on allmynonsense.com. And I'm on Twitter, LaLa Zigfreid, as well as Facebook, LaLa Zigfreid.
That's right. And there's another Twitter account that you came up with. I thought was very creative.
Oh, thank you. I don't use it as much, but you can totally use it. It's All My Nonsense, but you use the @ sign as the A in All My Nonsense.
It says Twitter at LL My Nonsense or All My Nonsense. I thought that was awesome. I thought it was
fancy,
amazing.
Right?
You know, Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming up. No. See, I'm already buying my stuff. I can't see bigger, better, more. You can't come on and be like, I gotta wait. No, I'm talking about it now. Yeah. But look, hey, you can even get down to December 24th. I don't care. No judgment here. I'm just saying, if you're going to shop Amazon, please shop through us. theothersideoflive.com/Amazon, because it won't cost you anything extra, and it really, really changes the way we do things. It helps out so much. It's amazing when people buy through our Amazon link. We have a little party every time, and that's probably why I have no money, because we spend that $5 on the party. But, well, you know, I shouldn't have told you that, but, you know, full disclosure, whatever.
Buy one single balloon.
But yeah, if you do your Christmas shopping on Amazon, go wherever you want to go. Go to the mall. That's fine. Just take our cards and leave them behind. Go to Walmart. Go wherever you want. But if you do shop on Amazon, I'm telling you, man, theothersideoflive.com/Amazon, you bookmark that and you're gold. And it's amazing. And this is going to change the way we do 2013. Also, if you want to find all of my stuff, I've got this new cool site called rebelmouse.com/House of the Bear. Rebel Mouse, REBEL, rebelmouse.com/House of the Bear. You don't have to be on Facebook. You don't have to be on Twitter or on Instagram. If you just go look at that page, you'll see my posts on my Instagram stuff. I'm going to do one tonight for the show. You're going to see the Facebook stuff. I love it. It just really puts all of the social media all in one place. Of course, there is at Bear Crawling on Twitter. There's House of the Bear on Facebook. There is the other side of live, where you'll get everything from Mordant and myself there. And we talk about the show that's coming up. We talk about the show that came to pass. If you want to message us, that's how you can ask questions. You can also email us at whatever you want at theothersideoflive.com. I love that. I wish people would use that more. You can say, hey, doofus at the other side of live. As long as you put at theothersideoflive.com.
I'm surprised you haven't gotten that one yet.
Yeah, I won't tell you the one I got from Rock Girl. But you can say Mordant at the other side of live, Charles, Bear, whatever. It's any word you want, any phrase, at theothersideoflive.com. It'll email both of us. We both get it equally. Leave a speak pipe on all the pages. Of course, go over to Mornet World, facebook.com/Mornet World, and tell Mornet how much he missed him. Because tell him this was a train wreck of it. Don't tell him that.
Don't tell him that.
But, I'll look forward to he'll be back next week. And because honestly, it was great talking to you, LaLa. I love talking to you. You and I are very similar. That's why we went long tonight, is we're such storytellers. We're so wordy.
I know. We're both we gab too much like a couple of chicks.
Yeah. I think Mornet would have been able to cut it down and keep us within the hour. Because I believe it's probably an hour worth of content. But, that's what happens when daddy's away, the kids will play. So that's going to be it for tonight. Why don't you take us out of here, LaLa?
I'm LaLa Zigfreid.
And I am hello, Bear, because she won't do the voice.
Ciao, dream catchers.
You practice it, do it.
Boom, baby.
All right. Then we'll get this really, really fun, super secret ending. So now you can do it.
I'm Armored Mom.
And I'm the LaLa Bear.
Ciao, dream catchers.
There's the director's cut dream ending right there.